Yes, do not adjust your screens. In the past week, I have done more videos with blue backgrounds than red backgrounds. Blue backgrounds being when I just talk about movie news and whatnot. Red backgrounds being reviews, but hey, let's chalk up one more blue background. Because at the beginning of some IMAX versions of The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, they are showing the first 9 minutes of Star Trek Into Darkness. And I saw it, so we're gonna talk about it with a blue background. So the Star Trek Into Darkness prologue starts out on Earth. I believe it was London, and it shows the star date, which I was like, why do they show the star date unless the star date is relevant? Could be an homage to Captain's Log, stardate, this, that. But I would think they would save that for Kirk to say. So the fact that they show the stardate, I find intriguing, and I start theorizing shit. But the point is, there's this family, and their little daughter's in a hospital. She looks like she's dying. And then the dad steps out to take a look at the landscape, because apparently the sight of buildings soothes him. Then you hear this ominous voice all like, I can save her. And you're like, oh, Benedict Cumberbatch, I know that voice. How can you save her, Sherlock? Then it shows him, and it's Cumberbatch, and then the scene ends. Then we're on this other planet. It's the planet from the trailer where it shows like all these red vines and plants. Kirk and Bones are running. They're running because they're running from this civilization. And they're doing an operation. This volcano is going to wipe out this civilization. It's a really primitive civilization. We're talking spears and loincloths. Clearly not ready for first contact yet. So they're doing this operational incognito. They're running because Kirk jacked this thing. And he's like, I don't know what it was. They were just bowing to it. Which made me go, you're a pretty shitty officer. I understand Kirk's supposed to be a rogue and whatnot. You know, he's supposed to go to the beat of his own drum. But what was the point of him taking this artifact that they obviously worship as a god? Was it just so they could have a chase sequence with the civilization? I don't know. But when this all was happening, I was like, okay, so we're just gonna do a standard operation, in which case it's gonna reintroduce the crew of the Enterprise. I wish it was more relevant, but okay. But if you do take the time to notice what could be some really solid foreshadowing, it's actually quite awesome. Among them running, Spock is in the volcano, and he has this device that's gonna render the volcano completely useless so the civilization doesn't get wiped out. Which I loved, because when I saw the volcano scene in the trailer, I was like, really? Another movie that has the climax of the entire thing take place in a volcano? Just seemed like a cliche thing for a movie. It's like, oh, we need a really ominous and threatening environment for the end of the movie. Make it a volcano. But it's not. It's actually at the beginning of the movie, which really calmed my nerves. That's why I try not to jump to conclusions, but sometimes you can't help it when you see things like that. So Bones and Kirk jump off of that cliff. They go underwater. They swim to the Enterprise. The Enterprise is under this lake. That's where it's hiding from this civilization. All right, cool. And then they get back on the Enterprise, and Kirk's like, Scotty, beam him out. And Scotty's like, I can't. There's too much activity. We need line of sight. And thus we have the moral dilemma in the first 9 minutes of Star Trek Into Darkness. Kirk's like, all right, raise the Enterprise. Let's get him out of there. And Spock's like, don't do that. The Prime Directive states that they cannot see the Enterprise. We cannot interfere with them. Kirk's like, dude, there's got to be an exception made. It's your life. Spock's like, no, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. I was like, ooh, Wrath of Khan reference. Which makes me think, why that? Then again, in the 2009 Star Trek, Spock also says, when you eliminate all possibilities, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. Which he also said in Star Trek 6, and that Star Trek has nothing to do with 6. However, it's from Sherlock Holmes, and Sherlock Holmes is in this Star Trek, and he said something that was from Sherlock Holmes, and my brain just exploded trying to... Okay. Back to point. And then Kirk looks at Bones, and he's like, if it were me down there and him up here, what would he do? Bones is just like, he'd let you die. So then it shows Spock just kind of looking around. It shows the lava boiling more and more and more. It looks like Spock accepts his fate. Then it goes black. The end. I was like, cliffhanger in the prologue? Really? I love a good cliffhanger though. So I was like, okay, I get it. I'm glad it ended right there because it keeps me on my toes. And I'm like, all right, now I really want to see this movie. But a cliffhanger like that, I mean, I know Spock's not going to die. One, because you see the Enterprise rise from the water in the trailer. So you're like, okay, well, they obviously leave that way. Although I don't know another way for the Enterprise to leave being underwater other than coming out from the water. But you also see Spock in the trailer in a scene that's not in this prologue. So he obviously gets out of that situation. And the point is, Spock lives. But a cliffhanger like that, it might as well have just been, Mr. Worf, fire. Dun dun dun! Dun dun dun! Dun dun dun! Dun 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 dun! Dun dun! I'm just saying, man, that was a cliffhanger and a half. However, if you see that situation as foreshadowing for what's to come in this new Star Trek movie, it's badass. I mean, is there gonna be a situation where Kirk is left somewhere and Spock's gonna need to make that same choice and he's maybe going to make the choice Kirk makes? Well, it shows Spock evolve like that in this movie. And it's been revealed that Benedict Cumberbatch plays a character named John Harrison. What Harrison's story is, I don't know. But he seems pretty pissed off at the Federation, so was he formerly with the Federation? Was he in a situation where he had to get out of deep shit and then the Prime Directive said, no, just you, bye. And they left him there to die? Did he have to leave someone to die and that's why he's pissed at the Federation? The fact that this is even making my brain turn like that shows that this prologue did its job well. And then when it ends, you see some more stuff that's pretty much from the trailer that we already saw. But it does show the part from the, I believe it was the Japanese extended trailer, where you hear Cumberbatch say something like, what would you do or how far would you go to save your family? Then it shows his hand and Spock's hand like against the glass, kind of like Wrath of Khan also. Although Cumberbatch officially does not play Khan, I can't help but feel like this is going to feed into Khan's story somehow. Also because Alice Eve plays Carol Marcus, and I saw this interview with her where she was talking about her character. She was like, you know, Carol Marcus, she was in the original and she was in Wrath of Khan. And she paused before she said Wrath of Khan and scratched her shoulder, and I was like, why did you pause and why did you scratch your shoulder? You looked uncomfortable, like you almost feel like you revealed too much information. Was she not supposed to allude to the Wrath of Khan? So a seemingly routine mission for the prologue ultimately looks more monumental than it initially did because of the foreshadowing, and I'm pumped. So I actually put a link below to the interview with Benedict Cumberbatch and Alice Eve talking about their roles in the movie. Watch Alice Eve's body language when she mentions Wrath of Khan. I'm telling you, she's hiding something. So what do you think about all of this? What are your theories about Star Trek Into Darkness? And do you think Alice Eve was hiding something? Whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.